What challenges await a Civil War veteran when he finds himself transported to the desolate planet of Barsoom, where towering barbarians roam? Will he be able to free himself from their clutches and become the unexpected hero that a princess and a loyal creature named Woola desperately seek? Welcome back to Movie Recap World. Today we will take a look at the movie John Carter, released in 2012. If you're ready, let's begin. In the bustling streets of New York City in 1881, a man skillfully evades another amidst the crowd. Restlessness emanates from him as he seeks refuge inside a building. Determined, he pays an extra fee to expedite a telegram. Meanwhile, a young man anxiously receives the urgent message from his uncle, urging him to hasten and come to his aid. Fueled by a sense of duty, the young man embarks on a journey to his uncle's grand estate, where a lawyer reveals the sudden demise of his uncle, John Carter. Astonishingly, everything has been bequeathed to the young man, Edgar Rice Burroughs. Before departing, the lawyer hands Edgar an aged diary. Alone in a room, Edgar reads a diary about post-Civil War Arizona. John Carter, a former Confederate captain, faces hostility as he enters the gold prospecting business. Colonel Power tries to recruit Carter to fight the Apache, but he refuses. Carter escapes from Fort Grant and encounters the Apache. A gunfight ensues, and Carter saves Powell. They find a cave with strange markings. Carter is attacked by a bald man, but manages to defeat him and take a blue medallion. Uttering words from the medallion, Carter awakens on Mars. He encounters green creatures and is attacked but saved by Tarkus, the leader of the tribe. Tarkus invites Carter to join them, but Carter's attempt to take their weapons fails. Once again, Tarkus signals his companions to cease their aggression towards Carter. They gather the hatched offspring, ruthlessly destroying the unhatched eggs, and escort Carter to their dwelling nestled within the remains of an ancient city. Overwhelmed and filled with horror, Carter yearns to return home, recognizing the medallion as his only possible means of escape. Regrettably, Tarkus has recovered the medallion and wears it around his neck. Within the city, other Tharks treat Carter with roughness, unable to identify his species and perceiving his lack of linguistic comprehension as indicative of an animal or an infant. Consequently, he is cast among the infants. In accordance with Thark tradition, the young ones are released into a tumultuous crowd, and whoever manages to capture one becomes the hatchling's guardian. Carter is assigned to Sola, a female whom the other Tharks regard with disdain, particularly another female named Sarkoja. After being cleansed and placed in a pit to rest with the other infants, Sarkoja pours a liquid into Carter's mouth. Subsequently, he gains the ability to speak and comprehend the local language. Somewhere in the distance, a fierce battle unfolds between humanoid factions aboard airships. One side is adorned in blue, while the other displays the color red. On a crimson vessel, 3 bald figures emerge, advancing towards General Sab Than. They present him with a blue mesh device that grants him the power to discharge bolts of energy. However, when he attempts to strike the 3 figures, he is forcefully propelled backward. The trio of figures chuckles sinisterly. They are Therns, emissaries of the goddess, and they have aligned themselves with Prince Sab Than of Zodanga in the conflict. The Thern leader, Matai Shang, motions for Sab Than to test his newfound sacred abilities. The general launches bolts of energy toward the enemy ships, triumphing in the battle. In the royal palace of Helium, Dejah Thoris practices a speech while her father, Tardos Mars, argues with his advisors. Dejah presents a machine called the Ninth Ray, claiming it's the source of Zodanga's power. A Thern sabotages the device, causing it to malfunction. Tardos realizes there's no time for further research and tells Dejah to marry Sab Than to stop the war. Dejah is upset, knowing the marriage won't prevent Zodanga's expansion and will end her research. In Tharkville, Carter is accompanied by the loyal and speedy creature Woola. Despite Carter's attempts to shake him off, Woola persistently follows. Carter's frustration grows as he seeks Tars Tarkas and the medallion. Woola's presence creates chaos and disrupts his plans. Carter finds himself in a Thark gathering. The enraged Tharks attack Woola and Sola, prompting Carter to intervene and accidentally kill a Thark. His exceptional leaping abilities impress the Tharks, who see him as a weapon. They blame Sola for allowing Carter to escape and brand her as punishment, warning her of dire consequences for any future mistakes. A sentry's warning sends the Tharks into hiding as 3 flying battleships emerge in the sky. 2 ships marked with red flags pursue a third one bearing a blue flag. The vessels draw nearer, preparing for boarding and close quarters combat. Through a telescope, Tars Tarkas explains the ongoing war to Carter. The Zodongans are engaged in battle with the Heliumites. On one of the ships, Dejah Thoris attempts to escape but falls, finding herself dangling several hundred feet above the ground. Recognizing her as a fellow human, Carter leaps to her rescue. Utilizing his extraordinary jumping abilities, he successfully saves the girl and commences defending her, only to witness her own impressive combat skills. Despite Carter's contribution in turning the tide of the battle, the blue helium craft ultimately crashes. After the battle, Tars Tarkas declares Carter his Dotar Sojat and gives Dejah Thoris to him. Tal Hajas, Tars Tarkas' rival, disapproves. Carter is hesitant but accepts to spare Dejah's life. He deflects questions about his abilities, and Dejah expresses a desire to learn. Carter explains it may be impossible for her due to bone density differences. Tars Tarkas warns Carter about Dejah's quest for a new weapon. Carter longs to return home and tries to describe Earth to Dejah, but she dismisses it as a fiction. They discuss astronomy, leading to the revelation that Carter is from Earth and they are on Mars, known as Barsum. If indeed there exists a means of traversing between worlds, it is likely that the Therns hold the knowledge. Despite Sola's attempts to dissuade them, Carter and Dejah Thoris venture into a cavern believed to be a temple dedicated to the goddess and her followers, the Therns. Dejah deciphers ancient inscriptions, but their progress is abruptly halted as the Tharks apprehend them for trespassing in the temple. Tarkas aids her escape, putting himself at great personal risk, and Carter deduces that Sola is his daughter. Given that Thark tradition dictates the isolation and anonymous rearing of their young, numerous transgressions must have occurred. Sola, Carter, and Dejah Thoris travel to the river Is with the medallion. Sola warns Carter about Dejah's true intentions. Going to Helium, Carter considers abandoning her, suspecting manipulation. Dejah reveals her personal stake in the battle, and Carter convinces her to go to Is first. The river is a path for pilgrims seeking paradise. Sola contemplates joining departing Tharks, but Carter stops her. Continuing up the meandering river, they encounter an inverted pyramid-like structure. Carter and Dejah Thoris enter, and they are greeted by luminous blue imagery displaying the solar system. Dejah Thoris realizes that the blue light is not of supernatural origin, but rather generated by machinery. It is the 9th ray, the very same blue ray she had been researching, which the enemy had weaponized. They also come to the realization that Carter's presence on Mars is likely the result of a transmission that duplicated him from Earth to Mars. Outside, guided by Matai Shang, a Thark army approaches. Matai Shang is intrigued by Carter and wants to test him. Carter, with the 2 women, mounts his steed and they flee. Despite objections, Carter stays behind with Woola to confront the army. He fights valiantly, but is eventually overwhelmed, remembering the devastation of war. As the battle ends, a helium battlecruiser arrives with Tardos Mars and Sabthan. Sabthan offers his sword to Dejah Thoris and proposes marriage. Dejah Thoris, instead of harming Sabthan, asks them to transport the wounded Carter to Zodanga for his recovery. Carter regains consciousness within a guarded chamber. Initially assuming he is in Helium, he is met with laughter from the crimson-clad guards. Contemplating his predicament in enemy territory, a figure attired in blue emerges and reveals that Carter is, in fact, in Zodanga. The man introduces himself as Kantos Khan and issues orders to enhance Carter's security. In a moment of closeness, Kantos whispers to Carter to take him hostage. However, Carter's perplexity impedes his response, frustrating Kantos, who then pretends to be the hostage as he guides Carter away from the guards. Deja Thoris is in a tower, dressed in bridal attire. She thanks Kantos for bringing Carter and dismisses the others. Deja tries to convince Carter to join her cause, but he refuses, and she notices his wedding ring. Realizing his heart belongs to someone else, Deja gives him the words to return to Earth. Zodangan guards demand entry, but when the door opens, Carter is gone. Deja and the others leave, leaving the chambermaid behind. Carter emerges from hiding, but is immobilized by Ma Tai-shang, who reveals the Thurn's plan to destroy Mars. Ma Tai-shang disguises as a Zodangan officer and leads Carter outside. They witness Deja Thoris in a procession. Ma Tai-shang reveals that after the wedding, Deja and those associated with the Ninth Ray will be condemned to death. Unexpectedly, Wula rushes in with great fervor, successfully disabling Shang's restraints, allowing Carter to break free and escape on the light flyer. Engaged in a thrilling pursuit, he crash lands near Sola. Recognizing the impossibility of challenging both the Zodangan military and the Thurns single-handedly, Carter decides to return to Tharkville and seek their assistance. Carter and Sola reach their destination unscathed, but the Tharks apprehend Carter and throw him into a prison cell, where he discovers a captive Tars Tarkas, also in chains. Tars Tarkas reveals that he had been overthrown by the one-tusked Tal Hajas. Learning that Carter has brought Sola back infuriates Tars Tarkas, and he would have killed Carter if not for his weakened state from the previous beatings. Subsequently, the prisoners are transported to a massive coliseum and forced to face off against a series of enormous white apes. Sola creates a diversion in the stands, enabling Carter to eliminate both creatures. The Tharks cheer for him, and he seizes the opportunity to challenge Tal Hajas for the role of Jeddak. With a single swift stroke, Carter beheads Tal Hajas, assuming the position of Jeddak and rallying an army to fight at his command. Leading his forces to Zodanga, they find the city deserted as everyone has moved to Helium. Tars Tarkas doubts they can reach the wedding in time, but Carter sees airships as a solution. He goes alone in a light flyer mistaken for an ally by Zodangan guards. Carter crashes into the wedding just as it's about to end. Zodangans attack Helium, and Ma Tai-shang poses a threat with his blue ray. Unexpectedly, a Thark light cruiser arrives, and they join forces with the Heliumite army. They defeat the Zodangans, and Carter retrieves the medallion. Sabthan dies from the blue device he cherished. With the immediate danger from Zodanga eliminated and now certain of his heart's desire, Carter retrieves his wedding ring and proposes to Deja Thoris. She joyfully accepts, and the people of Helium and Thark celebrate their union. However, that night, Carter finds himself restless and ventures out of the room. He tosses the medallion into the canyon below, and upon returning to the bedchamber, the guard expresses gratitude. Suddenly, the guard grabs him and transforms into Ma Tai-shang, intending to send Carter back to the cave in Arizona. Carter awakens disheveled, covered in dust, and sporting a beard. The colonel has decayed into a skeleton, and both the gold and the Thurn's body have vanished. Carter becomes aware of other Thurns on Earth and spends a decade searching for another medallion. He prepares a crypt on his estate for his return to Mars, leaving his body behind. He warns his nephew Edgar about potential Thurn attacks. Edgar inspects the crypt and is followed, but Carter saves him by killing a Thurn. Carter reveals his plan and the importance of Edgar protecting his body. He retrieves the medallion and enters the crypt to return to Mars. And the movie ends here. If you enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing. See you in the next one.